I am Anna Hildur, Hildibrandsdóttir, and I am the program director of NOMEX, which stands for Nordic Music Export, but I'm originally from Iceland. I've been living in London for over 20 years now, and I have my family over there. So prior to the job that I do now, I was running the Iceland Music Export Office for 5 years, and it was first established in 2007. And I negotiated with my board that I would be allowed to live in London and come 1 week a month to Iceland. And one of the arguments that I had for that was that in London is one of the most important networks in the music industry, and so that it would actually keep that network very much alive if I was allowed to live there, and it would save a lot on travel cost for me traveling around. So really how my time was sort of divided between these two locations was that when I was in Iceland I was really active talking to Icelandic musicians and businesses and consulting for them and working out what their needs were. But when I was in London I was more talking to businesses and pitching Icelandic music to companies and businesses out there. But then I traveled a lot elsewhere as well, and my job was primarily to create networks and connections and try and get more music out there. Definitely it benefits hugely, and especially in the scene of culture and creative industries, because it's something about the energy of creating that is well suited to small communities. There's something about big structures that is a little bit suffocating for creativity. So I think that's definitely possibly why, because Estonia, like Iceland, has a very creative scene. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of great artists here, and it's very possible that it has something to do with small communities and a relatively densely populated countries, that there's enough space to do things and things can happen very quickly. There's quick decision makings, and the scene, people know each other. So like in Iceland you can find people that might be in 3 or 4 music projects, and it actually benefits them in some ways. It can be an obstacle when they start working internationally, because then they don't have as much time, but it can be greatly beneficial as well. I think there's always some sense of healthy competition, but I think one of the things that are quite unique about the Icelandic scene is how friendly it is and how closely people work together. And we see this as well, that Sigur Rós takes Icelandic bands on tour with them, and Björk has been working with a lot of Icelandic musicians, and a lot of people are working with her on her projects. And Moom have done this as well, so there's a lot of support between the artists, which is one of the reasons for the constant success from Iceland. I'm really, really pleased to say that it's not hit the cultural funding from on a governmental level much. What has happened, it's really hit the funding that was coming from the private companies, and that has been difficult to some degree. But I have to say though, people in music and creative industries are used to work on very strict budgets, so maybe the crisis have hit this sector the least. When I was doing Iceland Music Export, we took over the management of Iceland Airways, which is one of the biggest festivals in Iceland. And for a couple of years we've been measuring how much income there is from the foreigners that come into Iceland. And this was of course done deliberately to argue with the government that the turnover that a festival like that creates in the economy, that what the expenditure of new money that comes into the country belongs to the turnover of the music industry and not the tourist industry. And we measured that there is about 3 million euros that comes in from the, which is what the foreigners that come to the festival are spending in this one weekend in October, which is a massive amount of money for one weekend in Reykjavik where nobody used to come before. And so we are definitely starting to gather intelligence like that to be able to communicate that this is important, and that's why it's important to invest in these structures, because governments, they get return on investment when they do that. But this is a little bit separate though from the development and from the core business of selling music, and in itself it is profitable. And I've just been talking this morning about the figures in Sweden, because they have recently done their statistics on the turnover in the Swedish music industry. And when you see the turnover and you compare it with the investment that is there from the governments, it gives back many times what is put in there. But the music industry itself has to be proactive and unite behind a strategy that is believable for governments. Because it's not enough just to say, because we are fantastic, we should have money. We should be fantastic at doing what we want to do, which is kind of increase the visibility of music or get more business done, etc., etc. But first and foremost, we need to give these information. It's not, governments can't just come up with the money and say go and spend it. They need to be able to explain to the taxpayers why they are doing this, and that's important. This is something that we have been learning slowly as an industry, and we've been helping each other out now, country by country, in trying to put this together and be more strategic in the way that we approach governments. I think actually that the music industry now is very forward-thinking, and if I compare it to films and books, literature and other sectors within the creative industries, I think we are ahead of the game right now. But I think, the challenges with the digital revolution have been so enormous that it has denied anybody to stagnate. People have to look for different solutions. And we have seen a great shift. Now the live industry is bigger, or at least equally big, to the recording industry. That was not the case 20 years ago. And this shows that there are changes and people have to adapt. Of course, those who are badly hit, like the record companies, they might be trying to resist this. And you can understand that this has been their core business, and it's sometimes difficult to change your core business in such a short time when a real kind of revolution like the digital revolution is. It changes everything. It changes how people consume, how they access, and all these things. But so I would say people are really looking into the future now, and there is a lot of discussion about different ways of doing things and different ideas and different approaches now, and you see some great initiatives in this, like 9 Inch Nail in America has adapted to this fantastically well. You see initiatives like Anna Brun, who is quite an independent artist in Sweden and has built a very healthy business around that. Tina Diko is another one in Denmark. So there's a lot of different alternative models coming up now that are working, and I think that's a good thing. But of course there will always be some that try and resist, because this is hitting their core business badly. Well, I think a band should only perform at a showcase festival if they're ready to follow up on it. Showcase festivals are great because they gather a lot of talent buyers in one place. So if you manage to get the attention from those talent buyers, you might both be getting tours and festival shows and distribution deals through those kind of events. But you should only do it when you're ready. And being ready means that you have to have a product that can be distributed, you have to be available to do touring, and you have to be available to do the work in sort of following up and promoting your album or product, whatever it is. And so I would say that firstly, these showcase festivals, some of them at least, are great because there's a concentration of talent bias there. When you go to play there, you have to do a show that represents who you are and what you are. So if you are a three-piece band, it might not give the right picture if you just perform solo. So you have to be what you are prepared to sell when you go on tours. And the other thing that you have to do, you have to be really, really good at networking and finding out who the contacts are that you want to find. Who would you like to sign your distribution to? Which festivals do you fit into? If you're an electronic act, don't try to sell it to metal festivals. So really go through the databases and find out who the people are that you want to make a connection to, and then work on making the connection. And start this 8 weeks before you go. Like really prepare in advance and try and do your research and get the meetings that are useful for you. That's what showcase festivals are great for, and that's how they should be used. And don't waste your energy of it if you're not prepared or ready with your project to do these things. Well, I would just say tremendous. There's been a really great positive development. So there are more and more international industry people coming here, and there is more and more talk about Tallinn Music Week outside in the international arena because of all these people that have been there. I would also say the panels are getting more structured, and some of the talent that I've seen, like Iris, has developed also tremendously during the 3 years that I've been coming here. So it's been a really, really positive development, and it's great seeing it from the beginning when there was hardly any funding behind it, and it was really done by passion and enthusiasm, and just seeing it establishing itself and just growing is really pleasing.